He did not speak, but they said he listened always even when no sound was made. Claiborne Parish, Louisiana, 1834. A thin fog gathers over the sugar fields and the low swamps beyond, heavy with rot and the scent of boiled cane. The parish ledgers from that year, bound in warped oak and leather, remain in the courthouse basement brittle, discolored, and water-eaten. Yet on one page, written in a clerk's unsteady hand, the ink blooms darker than the rest. Arrival of one male, name uncertain, mute by nature, delivered to the Lemaire estate for labor. Welcome back. Before we continue, like, subscribe, share. The story begins, as many old parish stories do, with a name no one could pronounce. Some said he was brought from up river. Others whispered he had come walking out of the woods one night, barefoot and enormous, with a rope scar around his neck. The Lemaires, a proud but declining family of French descent, took him in as a field worker. They called him Jacquot, a careless diminutive, but in time the slaves and overseers alike began calling him only the Silent Man. He was taller than any of them, broad, shouldered and strangely pale, though the sun beat on him the same as it did the rest. His eyes were a gray too light for comfort, not the color of storm water, but of something colder, lifeless. He never raised his hand, never made a sound, yet the animals shied from him. Even the dogs barked only once before backing away, tails low. The overseer, Baptiste Lemaire, noted in his journal that the man does not sleep, or if he does not lie down. Each night he was seen standing in the corner of the quarters, head bowed, as though listening to something beneath the earth. There were stories of footsteps heard long after the work bells ceased, heavy, deliberate, moving from field to field while the rest lay dreaming. In those days the parish still kept medical correspondences for unusual cases. A Dr. M. Rousseau, who served as both physician and amateur naturalist, was summoned to examine the Silent Man in late November of 1834. His notes remain partially legible, specimen of remarkable size, near 7 feet. No lesions, save for healed ligature at throat and minor webbing between fingers. No vocalization achieved upon stimulation of larynx. Chords present but atrophied, suggesting congenital defect or deliberate alteration. Pupils respond slowly to light. Expression vacant, though gaze persistent, follows movement even in darkness. I felt observed, though not by intellect as we know it. After this entry, Rousseau's records grow erratic. He began referring to his patient only as Subject L. Parish rumor insists Rousseau visited the Lemaire estate 3 times before ceasing his calls altogether. Some said he left Claiborne soon after, taking his instruments with him. By the turn of 1835, the Silent Man was no longer assigned to the cane fields, but kept to the lower property, the old brick-curing house, long abandoned since the fever season of 1828. Baptiste's handwriting becomes terse and uncertain in his later reports. He writes, the others avoid him. He has no scent, no breath seen even in cold morning air. The earth is damp where he stands, but the dew does not cling to him. My sister claims she saw him near the house at dawn, though I locked the yard gate myself. The parish records show no punishment, no sale, no death certificate. Only silence, his presence written out as carefully as it had been written in. Years later, the ledger continues with routine entries, weather, crop yield, inventory. But a faint stain, like ash mixed with ink, spreads across the margin where his name once stood. Local archivists dismiss it as humidity damage, but if you look close enough, you can see the faint impression of a fingerprint. Larger than any normal man's, some say the Lemaire's fortunes began to fail soon after. Flood, then fire, then the wasting sickness that took nearly all of them before 1841. The estate itself fell quiet, though travelers swore they saw light from the windows long after the house was empty. And sometimes, in the ditches near the parish road, they found footprints pressed deep into the mud, prints too wide, too long, the heel flat and human, but the arch missing. The courthouse clerk who handled the estate's dissolution wrote in his final report, "No man answers to the description, yet the neighbors say he passes still between the fields at night, bearing no torch, making no sound." No official conclusion was written, but one note in the margin penned by another hand reads, "If you speak his name, speak it low. The earth listens in Claiborne." The Lemaire Journal 1835-1837, "Some afflictions run not through blood, but through memory itself." In the early spring of 1835, the parish census lists one surviving branch of the Lemaire family still inhabiting the estate: Baptiste Lemaire, his sister Eulalie, and their ailing mother, Madame Celeste. The property had fallen to ruined shutters eaten by rot, the once white columns streaked gray. By then, only 6 laborers remained, though the record still accounted for 7, one name written over and then crossed out. A small, leather-bound volume found years later among courthouse filings bore Baptiste's initials, B. L. 1835. It was not a journal in the usual sense, rather a ledger of observations, brief, clipped, but increasingly unsteady in tone. March 9th, he is seen again at the well before dawn. The water does not ripple, though his hands rest upon the edge. March 17th, Eulalie insists he watches her window. I have barred it. April 2nd. Mother says she hears him breathe in her dreams, though he has no lungs fit for air. I begin to hear it too. Eulalie's handwriting appears beside these entries, smaller and more delicate, as though added in secrecy. The house hums when he stands beneath it. The beams tremble, though there is no wind. She wrote this 3 weeks before her disappearance. The official account states only that Eulalie departed for relatives in St. James Parish, but no travel record, no carriage, no companion is noted. Baptiste's final entry on her name is a single line: "She is below." Below what, the note does not clarify. After April of that year, Baptiste's script shifts from black ink to brown, the mark of improvised pigment, likely soot or dried blood. The text grows uneven, the words crowding the margins. May 12th. I found the physician's notes behind the curing house. Rousseau wrote of a fissure in the throat, not of injury but of design. Said the silence was made, not born. May 19th. The others refuse to pass the lower field. The smell is strong, metallic. One of the mules will not go near the old kiln. June 1st. The nights are wrong. The frogs stop singing when I walk past the well. I heard the rope tighten, though there was nothing upon it. The pages that follow are brittle, smudged. Parish archivists claim water damage, but a faint circular mark, perhaps from a candle base, presses through the final sheets. Around it, faint words written in Eulalie's hand: "He is not alone." In the courthouse inventory of 1836, the Lemaire property is noted as vacant by neglect. Yet a traveler's letter, dated August 1836, contradicts this. It was penned by a preacher named Reverend Josiah Clark, who passed through Claiborne en route to Natchez. His letter to his wife survives in the parish archives. There is a strange stillness about the Lemaire tract. I saw no one tending the road, yet the gate was open, and smoke rose from the chimney, though the air was still. Near sundown, I approached to call upon the master of the house. I found the yard untended but swept, as if by wide strokes of some heavy cloth. Upon the threshold were prints of bare feet, large as plates. When I called out, there was no answer, yet I felt watched from within. The windows were black, the kind of darkness that seems to breathe. I turned to leave, and I did. The door shut of its own accord. The sound was like a sigh. I walked away faster than was seemly for a man of the cloth. The Reverend never returned. 2 months later, his effects were found abandoned in the parish road 2 miles north. Among them, the same letter folded but unsigned. By 1837, the Claiborne Parish Committee for Public Health conducted what they termed a rural sanitation inspection. The Lemaire estate was on their docket. Only one inspector's notes survive, written by a junior clerk named F. Delacroix. The property presents evidence of occupation despite formal abandonment. Doors bolted from within, windows shuttered. Foul odor emanates from ground near southern well, though no carcass visible. Found fragments of clothing along fence line, torn but unstained. Heard movement within. Curing house, though door sealed by rust. We did not remain. Delacroix's superior, a man named Pierre Vallette, refused to endorse the report, calling it overwrought. Still, he recommended the estate be condemned. The parish granted that order in September 1837, but it was never carried out. The Lemaire lands remained untouched and tax forfeited until 1842. When the next family purchased it, they found only foundation stones and ash. In later years, locals began referring to that stretch of land as Le Champ du Muet, the Field of the Mute. They said that when fog lay low over the cane rows, you could see a figure walking slow through the mist, shoulders brushing the leaves. He made no sound, but if you listened closely, the hush itself seemed to pulse like breath taken in, held, and never released. Old women warned their children not to whistle after dusk, lest it draw his attention. No one could say what he wanted. Some claimed he searched for Eulalie, others whispered that he had never been a man at all, but something born to listen, waiting for those who dared to speak. When the archivist's report was filed in 1911, a note was appended at the bottom. The ledgers of Claiborne contain a silence between years 1835 and 1837. The ink is gone, but the pages are warm to the touch. No explanation followed. The Curing House Ledger 1841-1843 by the 1840s, Claiborne Parish was changing. The swamps had been drained, the trade roads widened, and the old plantations parceled off to smaller holdings. The Lemaire estate remained a scar among them, unsown, unclaimed, avoided. In 1841, a new family took possession, Charles Devereux, his wife Adelaide, and their 2 sons. Devereux had purchased the property site unseen from the county for a fraction of its worth. A man of stern rationality and modest means, he sought to reclaim the land from superstition. His correspondence to the mobile register survives in fragments, the last written in his own hand. May 3rd, 1841. We have begun to clear the north field, found evidence of prior habitation, blackened stones, a rusted chain, and bones, small ones like a bird's, though too long for any bird I know. The soil here is peculiar, damp, though it has not rained in a week. A week later he wrote again, May 11th. My laborers refuse to remain after sundown. They claim the earth hums under their feet. I have dismissed 2 for insolence. Adelaide complains of voices when the windows are open, though I hear nothing. That same month, a plantation overseer named Jeb Mallory was hired to manage the work crews. His diary, found decades later among court exhibits in a separate dispute, contained this passage. The master fancies himself a man of science, but I tell you the ground here ain't right. It's soft and gives way like there's air beneath it. I've worked 100 fields and never seen soil breathe. By midsummer, the Devereux family reported increasing illness. Parish physician Dr. Harlan Boone visited in August 1841 and recorded the following. Mrs. Devereux presented with severe fatigue and night sweats. The children complain of whispering sounds at their bedside. Mr. Devereux attributes this to feverish fancy. Yet I too heard something while within the curing house, a faint intake of breath, as if the building itself exhaled. Boone's report stops there. He resigned from the parish within the month. The ledger, among the few artifacts recovered from the Devereux estate after its abandonment, was a curing ledger. It was intended for the record of dried tobacco and cotton yield, but had been repurposed. The first pages are filled with neat, practical entries, weights, crop tallies, and weather notes. Then, abruptly, the handwriting changes. October 2nd, 1841. The floorboards near the kiln are hollow. Something beneath knocks when I step there. The servants refuse to pass it after dark. October 9th. He is seen again, not by me, but by Thomas, the eldest. Said the man's head near touched the lintel. He smiled, but his mouth did not move. October 15th. Adelaide says the children speak to someone under the house. They feed him crumbs. I have sealed the trapdoor. The next pages show erratic spacing, the handwriting frantic. October 30th. It is not one voice, it is many. The hush comes before the knock. They say my name, though none possess a tongue. The ink abruptly stops mid-sentence. The local constable's report, dated November 1841, states simply, property abandoned, house open, evidence of struggle, no bodies found. He adds in faint pencil at the bottom, the cellar is deeper than the plans show. I heard water or breath. Aftermath: in 1842, a road surveyor marked the estate as ruined but habitable. A small sharecropper family, the Roussillets, settled there briefly. Within 3 months, they too were gone. Their wagon was later found overturned in the bayou, contents scattered but untouched by scavengers. Only one piece of evidence links the Roussillets to the Lemaire Devereux grounds: a strip of cloth, handwoven linen, marked with a child's handprint in ash. Archival fragments in 1903. A historian from Louisiana State University, Dr. Nathaniel Crow, undertook a survey of unexplained disappearances in antebellum records. His notes on the Claiborne case were never formally published, but a typed excerpt survives. The recurring references to the Man of Silence suggest a continuity of oral narrative extending from at least 1819, the Lemaire incident of 1835, the Devereux deaths of 1841, and subsequent folklore describing a tall mute walking the fields appear connected by both geography and symbol. Most striking is the repetition of one image, the throat. In each phase of the story, the act of silencing recurs first as congenital muteness, later as violence, and finally as the silence of the land itself. The soil at the former Lemaire property is said to shift soundlessly underfoot. Local legend holds that speech itself is unwelcome there, that to call a name aloud invites attention. Crow visited Claiborne that autumn. His assistant recorded their final correspondence. November 17, 1903. Dr. Crow insisted on sleeping within the ruins of the curing house. Around midnight, I heard him reading aloud from the ledger, then nothing. When I entered, the pages lay scattered, still warm, though no flame had been lit. Crow was never seen again. His spectacles were later recovered from the property, the lenses intact but fogged from the inside. The curing house today by the 1920s. The Claiborne land had been incorporated into a sugar cooperative. Workers avoided the northern tract entirely, calling it La Terre Muette, the mute earth. An engineer in 1931 recorded that machinery failed there without explanation. The air, he wrote, felt thick, like breath held too long. When photographed from above in 1957, the field revealed a curious geometry, an outline of darker soil in the shape of a man lying supine, arms crossed upon the chest. They say that during heavy rain, the earth along that shape rises and falls, as if something beneath it stirs slow, deliberate, remembering the shape of speech. And when thunder rolls low across the bayou, the echo that answers from the ground does not sound like thunder at all. It sounds like someone trying, after a very long silence, to breathe. The erasure, 1848, present by the spring of 1848, the story of the Lemaire and Devereux plantations had already faded into rumor, a cursed parcel, unfit for cultivation. The few who remembered spoke only of the mute man, and the way sound seemed thinner there, as though the very air swallowed words whole. Then, in May of that year, a series of killings began across St. Landry, Wilcox, and Claiborne parishes. 9 men, all former slave traders or overseers, were found dead in their beds. Each bore the same mark, a crushed throat and a length of cotton fiber wrapped tightly around the neck. The papers called it the work of a phantom abolitionist. The clergy called it blasphemy, but among the enslaved a different story circulated of a man who could not speak but who remembered. A man who moved unseen, patient as mold and silent as prayer. Sheriff Miles Beauregard led the investigation. His surviving notes describe a pattern too deliberate to be random. All 9 victims had once held property in the vicinity of the old Lemaire tract. Each at one point had claimed ownership of a single slave whose description matched the same impossible figure. Male, unusually tall, gray-eyed, incapable of speech. Beauregard's final dispatch to the state governor was dated September 10, 1848. The bodies found near Claiborne bear marks of restraint, not of man's design. One tree upon the property has grown through an iron chain, the links fused within the trunk. It is said the chain was buried there. 30 years prior, when the first family vanished, The soil around it is unnaturally loose, and when uncovered exhales a gas with odor of decay. The Negroes call it his breath. 6 days later, on September 16th, 8 men were hanged in the clearing 5 miles east of the old plantation. Their names, recorded only once, were later blotted out in the parish ledger. The charges read conspiracy, insurrection, and murder. The 9th man was never found. The record of silence by Winter. All mention of the case had been removed from public documents. Newspaper archives were reprinted, death certificates amended. Where the name Jacob once appeared, blank spaces remained. A state clerk named Isaiah Boone, a distant relative of the old physician, later confessed in private letters that he had been ordered to destroy specific pages from county records. It was not justice they sought. He wrote, but quiet. They said the story itself was dangerous, that it might teach men to listen to the wrong kind of silence. When Boone refused to burn the last ledger, the one found in the Devereux curing house, it was taken from his office overnight. He left the state soon after. No copy was ever recovered. The whispering archive for nearly 50 years, nothing more was heard of the silent man. Then in 1899, during an expansion of the parish courthouse, workers unearthed a box of charred documents sealed inside the foundation. Most were illegible, but one fragment of parchment remained intact enough to read, "He stands where the air forgets its sound. The earth remembers him, though men do not. What was taken from his tongue he has taught to the ground. Handwriting analysis suggests it belonged to Dr. Crow, the same historian who vanished in 1903. The fragment is now missing from the university's collection. The final investigation in 1972, a local historian named Eleanor Vance revisited the Claiborne site. Her report for the Louisiana Historical Society was never formally published, but a carbon copy was discovered among her effects after her death in 1978. She wrote, "The curing house is gone, the fields overgrown, yet the impression of a foundation remains, and beneath it, the air still holds a faint vibration like a voice caught between breaths. My tape recorder malfunctioned repeatedly, but in the few seconds that played back, a pattern could be heard. 4 distinct knocks, then a pause, then 4 again. I do not claim to know what this means, only that when I played the tape a second time, the knocks were joined by another sound, something like wind, but when amplified it was not wind. It was the sound of someone trying, very faintly, to speak." Vance died of heart failure 2 months later. The tape remains missing. The land today, drive down Highway 167 toward Opelousas, and you'll pass nothing that bears the name Claiborne. The map lists it as unincorporated parish land. Yet locals still refuse to farm the northern tract. Hunters say their dogs go silent there. Surveyors claim their instruments lose calibration, and during storms, some swear the ground itself hums a low, even pulse, timed with the thunder's retreat. In 2008, a construction crew clearing the area for a new sugar refinery reported a collapse in the soil. What they uncovered was a hollow chamber lined with ancient brick. Inside lay remnants of wood, rusted iron, and a single human skull. The jawbone was missing. Within 24 hours, the site was sealed by state order. Officially, no human remains were found. The company quietly relocated its operations. Echoes, the story of the silent man has been erased again and again from ledgers, from archives, from maps, yet it persists where silence endures. Teachers in rural schools still warn children not to call out near the bayou after dusk. Farmers place stones over the old boundary markers and never till beyond them. When questioned, most shrug and say it's just tradition. But some, the older ones, lower their voices and add, "It's best not to wake what listens." Afterward, a breath between centuries in 2021. An independent researcher examining spectral anomalies in 19th century recordings noted something peculiar. Several wax cylinders attributed to Dr. Crow's missing collection contain faint disturbances between frequencies almost like whispered syllables. When transcribed visually, the sound wave forms the outline of a human profile, mouth open, but no sound emitted. The researcher's conclusion, Whatever it was, it never stopped listening. The silence it left behind was not absence, it was occupation. And so, though the records are gone, the soil still moves when thunder breaks, and the air along the old road still holds its breath, waiting for the sound of something that has learned to speak without a tongue. What do you think? Was it ever truly over? Or did the land just learn to keep its silence better than we did? The record beneath the static 2022, present in November 2022, a graduate researcher at Chilean University named Clara Hensley began digitizing Louisiana's lost parish archives. Her work focused on 19th century property deeds, but among the mislabeled reels she found one that should not have existed, catalogued simply as Claiborne Unsorted. The box contained 2 water-damaged ledgers, a cracked phonograph cylinder, and a strip of undeveloped film sealed in wax paper. All 3 bore the same marking in faded ink, property of Dr. N. Crow, 1901. 1. The cylinder. When Clara first played the phonograph in the university's conservation lab, she heard only distortion static, then a deep pulse like breath caught in a jar. But under digital restoration, a faint pattern emerged, rhythmic knocks, 4 in sequence, a pause, then 4 again. The sound technician joked that it was Morse code, but the pattern didn't match any known sequence. When amplified, however, the waveform showed something strange, a resonance far too low for a human voice, vibrating at the same subfrequency recorded in Eleanor Vance's 1972 field tape. Clara made note of it in her digital log at 03:17 a.m. Something is beneath the noise, not words, exactly, more like movement. The waveform looks like an open mouth. I think it's trying to say something, but the space between sounds feels wrong, too deep. 2 days later, the audio files corrupted, the log entry itself vanished from the server. 2. The ledger of the 2 ledgers, one was little more than ash and mold, the other, though brittle, contained scattered entries in multiple hands. Some were in French, some in English, and one cramped and angular seemed written in graphite, not ink. Page 47 contained the last complete entry, dated October 17, 1848. The parish is emptying itself. They've taken the names from our mouths and buried them in the dirt. I dream of the tree with the chain inside it. It moves when no wind touches it. Someone is still bound beneath, but not by iron. Last night I heard him in the walls. He never needed a tongue. Below the writing, a faint imprint of another hand pressed into the paper as though someone had leaned over it decades later. The handprint measured abnormally long, with narrow fingers and no visible thumb. When photographed under ultraviolet light, the margin revealed one word repeated 12 times. Listen 3. The film strip. The film proved the most unsettling. Developed carefully in red light, it revealed a single blurred frame, a photograph of an empty field. But through the fog, a pale figure could be seen standing by what looked like an oak tree, half consumed by its own bark. Clara enhanced the image, adjusted contrast, and froze. The figure's head was turned toward the camera. The mouth open wide was a void. Behind the figure, faint vertical lines suggested movement, as though the air itself were being pulled inward. That night, the lab's motion sensors triggered at 2:11 a.m. The cameras recorded nothing, but the audio channel captured a soft vibration lasting 43 seconds. When spectrographed, it mirrored the same 4-knock pattern found in Crow's cylinder. The file was automatically renamed by the system before deletion. Claiborne listens. WAV4. The missing researcher. On December 3, 2022, Clara failed to report for work. Campus security found her office undisturbed, lights on, chair pulled back, computer open. The cylinder and film were gone. On her desk lay a single sheet of paper, torn from a modern notebook. Written in uneven pencil, I tried not to speak, but it hears through silence too. In the days following her disappearance, colleagues who handled the archived box reported unusual phenomena: brief lapses in hearing, unexplained static in audio devices, and the feeling of a breath on the back of the neck when alone. University administration sealed the collection pending preservation, though internal emails later leaked described the materials as non-standard biological hazard. 5. The transfer in March 2023, the Claiborne collection was quietly transferred to a private institute in Atlanta for further study. The institute has no public record of existence, though shipping manifests confirm the crates were received. 2 months later, a graduate technician uploaded a video to a small paranormal forum claiming to have seen the contents. His post, titled "The Man Who Doesn't Speak," contained the following transcript before it was deleted. They played the cylinder through modern speakers, said it was safe. The room went quiet like air pressure dropped. Then the speakers started breathing. Breathing. Everyone thought it was feedback until the lights flickered. Waveforms started shaping words, not English, not French, but the pattern looked like the human throat forming sound. Then one of the monitors glitched and showed a figure, gray eyes, mouth blacked out, no shadow. Someone said his name out loud. The sound died instantly. The recording ended, but the waveform didn't. It just kept moving. The account was removed within an hour. The user's profile disappeared. 6 modern sightings since then. The Claiborne site has become overgrown once more. Travelers report that GPS devices lose signal in a mile-wide radius. Farmers along Highway 167 claim to hear low droning tones before rainfall, like a hum rising from underground. In 2024, a drone survey captured a thermal anomaly shaped like a human outline in the soil directly above where the curing house once stood. No body was found. A week after the footage circulated online, the channel that posted it was permanently banned for violation of data integrity protocols. 7. The New Silence locals now say the silent man doesn't haunt the land anymore. He learned. They say he moved into the static, into the space between frequencies where no word can reach. If you drive that road at night, turn off the radio. You'll hear nothing at first, then a soft knock. 4 times, a pause. 4 again, don't answer, don't speak. Just keep driving, because if you try to record it, you'll hear it speak your name back, not as an echo, but as something listening from the other side of your silence. Author's note: recovered log. Claiborne isn't a story, it's a frequency. You can delete the files, erase the paper, but the silence keeps the imprint. We thought ghosts were trapped souls, but what if silence itself is what's left behind when sound remembers? Undated note, unsigned. Found in a corrupted metadata file labeled P5 final, docx, and that's how it ends or how it begins again. The silent man never needed a voice to speak. He only needed us to stop talking long enough to listen. He transcript of the unheard recovered audio log. Claiborne listens. WAV file origin Chilean archive transfer/device ID HN042 date created 2022-12-0223 41 CST recovered by redacted condition partial corruption approx. 63% recoverable notes. Recording presumed to capture final known activity of C. Hensley before disappearance. Begin transcript low static. Shuffling papers Clara Hensley CH. Testing 1, 2. Pause OK. It's recording now. Audio log for Claiborne set number 5. Dr. Crow's cylinder redigitized at higher sample rate. They told me to stop working alone at night, but it's quieter this way. No interruptions, no air conditioning hum. I can almost hear what's inside the noise. 0, 36 brief thump, faint 4. Knock rhythm under static, there it is again. 4 knocks pause 4, same as before. It's not Morse, not heartbeat, not machinery. I ran spectral analysis. The waveform looks wrong, like a shape pretending to be sound. She laughs softly, nervous. I keep thinking about the old entry, the one in French, Il n'a jamais eu besoin de la parole. He never needed speech. Maybe that's not metaphorical. 1:24 click. Playback of the wax cylinder begins CH. I'll amplify and feed it through the monitor speakers this time. Maybe sound rises a low, breathing hum, irregular, like wind through hollow wood. That's it. That's breathing. It's breathing through the static. Hold on, I'm getting feedback. 0208 sudden hype, pitch tone, microphone distorts. CH, wait, that's movement. The input levels are reading negative values. That's impossible. A metallic sound, chair scraping backwards. Okay, I just saw something in the reflection of the screen, not a shadow exactly, the room's dark, but nervous laugh, I think I need more coffee. 02:43 silence, then faint whisper, like modulation in static. Unidentified you, listen who's there, long pause, faint breathing continues. 03:17 equipment hum deepens, objects fall from table. That came from behind the desk. Jesus no, stay calm, just stay knocking, 4 times, pause, 4 again. It's matching me, I moved left, it knocks left, I know this pattern, the 1848 entry, they took the names from our mouths, is this. She exhales shakily. Okay, if anyone finds this, my name is 03:17 equipment hum deepens, objects fall from table. That came from behind the desk, Jesus no, stay calm, just stay knocking, 4 times. Pause, 4 again. It's matching me, I moved left, it knocks left, I know this pattern, the 1848 entry, they took the names from our mouths, is this. She exhales shakily. Okay. If anyone finds this, my name is 03:57 loud distortion, her voice overlaps itself as though recorded twice. Layered, Clara, listen frequency analysis tags appear automatically in metadata, voice duplication / unreal source, 04:23 paper tearing sound. It's writing, no pen, no ink, it's pressing letters through the notebook. She reads, hear me, I am in the air between words, 04:39 sudden spike, signal peaks at 142 dB then drops to 0. No, this can't gasps, the air feels thick like water. You faint, through distortion, you made sound, please I didn't you. Now I remember my name, distortion intensifies, frequency becomes rhythmic. Don't say it, knocking sequence again slower now. U4. Pause 4 until silence breaks 05:22 brief moment of normal ambient sound, lab equipment humming. Weakly it stopped, the sound it's inside my ears, not around me, breathing quickens. I understand now. He didn't die there, he was absorbed, that's what the ledger meant. The silence wasn't emptiness, it was where he went. 05:47 microphone crackles violently. If I stop speaking, I think he moves closer. Short pause, then whisper near mic you, yes, terrified whisper, you need a voice, you already gave it, audio cuts, then resumes at 00:06:02 oh God, the waveform it's copying my speech in real time. It's learning through the tone, my own words are becoming something else. Low laughter but pitch analysis shows the laughter belongs to 2 overlapping sources. Stop it, please stop, you overlapping, I cannot. I am sound now, 06:34 deep bass pulse, items crash, I can't see lights gone, only the waveform on the monitor, it's drawing a shape, looks like a mouth. Signal warps, unreadable speech fragments, my tongue's numb you don't need it, recording glitches, multiple seconds missing. 07:18 faint human whisper repeating listen 12 times. If you hear this, delete it, don't digitize again, it spreads through playback, promise me another knock, directly next to microphone. Startled cry, oh God, her voice cuts out, only static. 07:39 static modulates into low human tone. You perfect clarity, her own. Pitch I am Clara, I listen now, silence for 7 seconds, you faint, your turn, end of recoverable audio. Postscript, forensic note recovered 2023-01-11 by an external consultant. Digital signature showed duplication across 4 separate servers despite only 1 upload event. Each copy contained unique ambient interference patterns consistent with open microphones on devices not connected at the time. When analysts replayed the file at reduced volume, they reported mild ear pressure and the perception of whispered speech localized inside the auditory canal. Within 3 days, the servers all failed checksum verification. The file renamed itself to Silence Speaks Final. WAV, no trace of the original data remains. The silent man didn't vanish with his body, he simply found a better medium. Now, He travels through the frequencies between words, feeding on the act of listening itself. Every playback spreads the silence farther. Internal Memorandum, Department of Cultural Preservation, DCP-4 File No, DCP/AL/0194-77 Project Claiborne Classification, Restricted/Internal Circulation Only Date, 03 March 2023 Author, Dr. Elaine Crow, Senior Historical Auditor. Subject: Summary of Findings. The Silent Man of Claiborne Parish 1. Background and purpose. The objective of Project Claiborne was to compile, digitize, and interpret materials recovered from the Claiborne Parish Archive in southern Alabama, including plantation ledgers, death certificates, letters, and oral transcriptions from 1839-1852. The project was initiated after the discovery of anomalous documentation during a property transfer audit. Among the items cataloged were 3 wax cylinders labeled 1008/Silent Jacob, a partial ledger referencing Corrective Justice/Lowndes County. Photographs undated, likely early 1900s, showing structural damage consistent with arson, though listed officially as weather deterioration. Following the disappearance of Dr. Clara Hensley, lead archivist, the department suspended all digital restoration tasks. The files were quarantined under DCP Ethical Containment Protocol 12B, the same measure used in 1998 for the McKinley Field recordings incident. 2. Chain of custody. All physical materials from Claiborne Parish are stored at Facility Delta, Vault Room 3B, under negative pressure. Digital copies are housed on an isolated network air-gap node, ALB0317, not connected to the open internet since 2022-12-03. During inventory on 2023-01-11, technicians reported metadata corruption across multiple storage servers. Self-replicating file instances titled Silence Speaks Final, WAV, persistent checksum desynchronization interpreted as digital drift. An independent contractor later confirmed the replication pattern matched that of viral code, except no executable data could be found within the file header. The replication appeared to occur through acoustic playback, not through binary duplication. 3. The Claiborne sound phenomenon. Forensic linguists were tasked with spectral analysis of the recovered audio. Key findings include: the fundamental tone is not consistent with any known mechanical frequency. It exists between 18.9 Hz and 19.1 Hz, near the threshold of human perception, capable of inducing disorientation, anxiety, and blurred vision. Embedded within that tone is a secondary modulated pattern resembling human speech, but inverted in phase. When reversed, the signal partially reconstructs vocal elements consistent with Dr. Hensley's voice, though with phoneme distortions that form non-linguistic utterances. Temporal interference. The waveform's time index fluctuates by milliseconds with each replay, as though the file responds to the listener's attention. A particularly disturbing observation: during controlled playback with noise, canceling isolation, observers reported identical auditory hallucinations, whispering at close proximity, synchronized breath patterns, and tactile sensations near the base of the skull. Testing was discontinued after 2 subjects experienced nosebleeds and claimed they heard someone breathing through the recording. 4. Psychological and behavioral incidents. Since containment began, 6 personnel have reported abnormal experiences. Case 4A, Archivist D. Moore claimed to hear 4 knocks during power fluctuations despite being alone. He resigned 2 days later. Case 4C, Technician B. Rhodes experienced partial aphasia, loss of verbal speech lasting 27 minutes after listening to 2 minutes of the audio sample. Case 4F, Night Guard L. Ramirez reported seeing a tall man standing in the reflection of the containment glass, though motion sensors detected no entry or exit. Case 4H, Digital Systems Analyst J. Cohen began typing transcriptions of unknown origin. He claimed they were dictated from the air between the words. Case 4K, Two interns began humming in unison during file transfer tasks. Neither recalled doing so afterward. Case 4N. Dr. Crow. This author reports recurring dreams of an attic, a rope, and a faint rhythm. 4 knocks. Pause. 4. Dreams occur exclusively after reviewing archival documents. No further exposure is permitted without express written authorization from DCP Executive Command. 5. Historical reconstruction. Subject Jacob, correlating data from estate records, death notices, and oral histories, suggests that Jacob, later known in folk tradition as the Silent Man, did exist. Estimated birth, 1818-1820, Charleston District, South Carolina. Physical description, height 6'6", gray eyes, partial congenital muteness. Final record, execution by hanging, 16 September 1008. 148 Lowndes County. Ale witness statements preserved through descendants consistently describe an unnerving calmness, a mechanical smile, and the ability to appear and disappear within enclosed rooms. Several plantation ledgers refer cryptically to the ninth unseen, a possible surviving member of his network. This correlates to Dr. Hensley's final recovered note, 9 gone. 1 listening. The hypothesis is that the phenomenon attached to Jacob's final state was less spiritual haunting and more acoustic residue, a memory embedded within the mechanical vibration of sound itself. His muteness, paradoxically, became a vessel. Silence, stretched across centuries, found a voice through mechanical reproduction. 6. Current containment status. The Claiborne audio files remain sealed under triple quarantine. Playback authorization revoked indefinitely. All derivative material transcripts, metadata, or written reproductions of the waveform classified as potential. Carrier media. A note. During the January review, an intern attempted to print the waveform graph. The printer jammed, producing 4 blank pages, each embossed faintly with a pattern resembling a noose and the letters J, C, repeated in microscopic text. The pages were incinerated. Environmental sensors at facility Delta occasionally register low frequency vibrations when no playback is active. The source remains unidentified. 7. Recommendations. Terminate all restoration projects involving prephonographic sound technology until full psychoacoustic risk assessment is complete. Relocate the Claiborne collection to subterranean containment. Minimum depth, 60 meters. Avoid speaking the name Jacob within auditory range of the recordings. Maintain white noise generators at 60 Hz in the vicinity of all archival equipment. Constant background resonance appears to suppress low frequency interference. Do not attempt digital analysis or transcription without analog isolation. 8. Unresolved questions. Is the Claiborne frequency a residual imprint or an intelligent presence adapting through sound? If the entity's identity originated from human trauma 1848 execution, is it bound to that event, or can it migrate across media? Dr. Hensley's disappearance remains unexplained. Her last email draft ended mid-sentence. He isn't silent because he can't speak. He's silent because that's where. The rest of the line was overwritten by 8 seconds of low-frequency hum. 9. Closing remarks. Project Claiborne remains the most disturbing convergence of history, sound, and myth ever encountered by this department. What began as an investigation into archival erasure has become a study of linguistic possession and intelligence using silence itself as a means of transmission. The irony is inescapable. He was called mute, yet centuries later, his voice speaks clearer than ours. End of report. DCP/AL/019 4-77 filed by Dr. Elaine Crow. Status active / containment priority level 2. Postscript handwritten. When I replayed the file one last time, I swear I heard someone behind me whisper, "Your turn." I haven't slept since. Field notes. Crow, March 12, April 3, 2023. I thought silence was absence. I was wrong. It is attention waiting to be filled. Audio transcript file. Croper 0103/12/2322. 17 recovered from handheld recorder. Claiborne Parish Al. Static wind interference, faint rhythmic tapping throughout. This is Dr. Elaine Crow, Senior Auditor, DCP. I have returned to Claiborne despite suspension of Project Claiborne, vault access revoked, but I retained the analog keys before transfer. I need to understand what happened to Hensley. The field is smaller than I imagined. The soil is gray, soft, no markers, only the line of oak roots and a shallow depression where the well must have been. The locals say nothing grows here because the earth still remembers being listened to. Long pause, whispering wind interference, indistinct phrases possibly including your name. The frogs are gone tonight. Not even insects. It's the same pause Hensley described. You start to think the silence is a shape pressing against your ears. Recording ends abruptly with low thud. Letter found unsent in Crow's field case dated March 14, 2023 to Director Ames from Dr. Elaine Crow. Subject, follow-up visit, Claiborne site. Sir, this letter is for your records should I fail to report in person. I believe the acoustic signature described in the Claiborne archive is geological. There is a resonant cavity beneath the soil, likely the remains of a well or collapsed tunnel. At approximately 02:15 this morning, I heard vibrations emanating upward from the ground. 4 short pulses, pause, 4 again. It matched the rhythm logged in my dream records. The pressure built until my teeth hurt. I called out, I don't know why, and the echo came back delayed, as if spoken by someone standing directly behind me. It said my name. I am not prone to delusion. My vitals are steady, my cognition intact. Yet there was a breath in it like lungs drawing through dust. I've sealed samples from the site and will return them to Delta facility for spectral analysis. If I fail to arrive by Friday, send a team to the Claiborne tract. Bring respirators. Respectfully, E. Crow. The letter was never mailed. It was found folded into the binding of her field log, the paper stiffened by humidity. Field log, March 16, 2023 02:03. The hum returned, low, beneath hearing, but physical, vibrates in my sternum. My recorder switched on by itself. Playback reveals 4 seconds of whispering. She listens as he did. 02:41. Observed shadows near treeline. Movement without source. I spoke aloud. What do you want? Immediate feedback to finish the 9th. 03:00. Dug into soft earth near well depression. Found remnants of rotted timber, charred underneath, rusted chain and fragments of bone. 1 vertebra bore a hole clean, circular as if bored by precision tool. Hensley mentioned similar anomalies. I felt a vibration through the soil when I touched it, almost. Gratitude. 04:12. Cannot sleep. Every time I close my eyes, the silence moves closer to my face. Recovered email draft March 20, 2023 to internal. VC PRChat USA. Gov subject, he isn't gone. There's a misunderstanding about Claiborne events of 1848. The executions were real but not complete. Jacob's body was buried, yes, but his muteness wasn't congenital. It was imposed. Rousseau's notes, the ones in Baptiste Lemaire's ledger, describe surgical intervention. The overseer removed his tongue, but that isn't what took his voice. He stopped speaking long before that. The throat, the diaphragm, the very cavities that should make sound all collapsed inward, as though the flesh itself obeyed another will. You see, when they killed him, they didn't silence him. They taught silence how to live inside a body. Now it's learned how to move without one. The email terminates mid-sentence. Metadata shows it was never sent. Audio transcript file Crowipers 02:03/25/2301. 33. Severe static. Occasional distortion. Something is beneath me. It isn't ground, it's breathing. Every time I stop talking, it leans closer. I hear footsteps inside the silence. They match mine, half a beat delayed. I tried humming it, quieted. But when I stopped, the air answered. Unintelligible phrase repeated, below, below, below. The clay under my boots. It pulses. The rhythm is the same as the old recordings. 4 beats, pause, 4. I think it's counting. I think it's learning my breath. End of recording. Notebook entry, March 31, 2023. I dream of a wooden ceiling. There is a man standing above it, motionless, gray-eyed, patient. I know his name is not Jacob. It was borrowed. His true name is Soundless. When I wake, the pattern of the rope burns my palms. The ceiling in my hotel room creaks like something walking between floors. The silence is no longer empty. It listens, it understands rhythm, it only needs lungs. Voicemail transcript April 3, 2023, 04:47 a.m. left on DCP emergency line. Caller ID, Crowy Al Delta, audio faint, fragmented, he's awake. It's not Jacob anymore. It's everyone who ever swallowed a scream. The sound, the one they called silence, it isn't passive, it's contagious. If you speak his story, he hears you. Every retelling opens the ear again. That's why the archives burn. That's why the names were erased. They were trying to starve him. Long pause, shallow breathing, faint crackling as if wood burning. He's here, not outside in the pause between words. When I stop talking, line cuts out. Undated note found at Claiborne's site, pinned under recorder. Don't whisper, don't pray, don't even think his name. The silence listens harder when you doubt it. I can feel him behind the paper, pressing his ear to the words. Signature illegible, possibly E. Crow, or Eulalie. When agents arrived at the Claiborne tract on April 7th, they found Crow's vehicle abandoned. The field kit was undisturbed. The soil bore shallow indentations matching footprints, but only one set led inward, none led out. Inside her recorder was a single unmarked file. 000004 in duration. Spectrogram analysis revealed no human voice, only 4 dull impacts and then a faint intake of breath. The facility incident Delta Compound April, May 2023. Containment is not about walls, it is about belief. DCP Internal Memo May 1, 2023 Incident Summary DCP Delta Compound AL Date April 10, May 6, 2023 Prepared by Captain R. Lang Security Division Classification Level Red Acoustic/Perceptual Breach Overview Following the unexplained disappearance of Dr. Elaine Crow at Claiborne Parish, retrieval teams returned all materials to Delta Compound for secure storage. Within 48 hours, a series of phenomena began spreading through archives. Wing B, specifically rooms housing case Claiborne 1008, 148-2023. Personnel reported auditory distortions, unrecorded motion in sealed hallways, and loss of linguistic function lasting 3-7 seconds. On April 12th, the phrase "he waits in the pause" appeared printed on every page of the digital log system without network activity. Internal email April 14, 2023 from L. Ames Director to Delta Staff Subject. Temporary suspension of verbal communication effective immediately. All spoken correspondence within Wing B is prohibited. Teams will use written or gesture-based systems until further notice. The distortion appears to respond to vocal frequency. The more staff attempt to discuss it aloud, the stronger the feedback becomes. Destroy all analog recorders brought back from the Claiborne site. Crow's equipment is not to be handled. It remains in evidence room 4C under triple containment. Message ends, no sign, NOF. Security camera transcript 04/17/23, 02, 13 AM visual only, no sound. Hallway outside evidence 4C. 2 guards visible, Mendez ID #19-74 and Callow ID #22-08. Mendez gestures toward the door, signing lights flicker. Callow nods 00, 02, 07, both turn toward end of hall. Movement behind camera, unregistered figure reflected briefly in glass. 0002, 09, Callow mouths something, no audio but lip. Readers interpret, did you hear? Feed cuts to static for 4 seconds. When the video returns, both guards are standing perfectly still, facing the door. Their mouths are open, no movement, no sound. The file ends. Neither officer was found afterward. Lab log Dr. Patel April 20, 2023 Subject Artifact #Croppers REC01 I was instructed to disassemble the recorder found at the parish. Inside the tape spool I discovered not magnetized ribbon, but a fine residue like powdered clay. When examined under microscope, the particles moved toward each other, aligning in pulses. There was a rhythm. 4 beats, pause, 4. The air around the dish grew heavy, as if something were listening from inside it. My intern began bleeding from the ears within minutes. The sample was sealed in lead container, but the hum continued through metal, through walls. It's not sound in the physical sense, it's memory of sound, something that remembers being heard. Asterisk entry ends abruptly. Final line, I can feel him under my tongue. Director's Journal, April 22, 2023. They keep calling it a contagion, but viruses don't learn. This thing adapts. Crow believed it was geological resonance. I think she underestimated its intelligence. The silence itself seems reactive like it requires attention to live. When no one listens, it sleeps. When we study it, it grows curious. I tested this theory. For 48 hours, all records were sealed, all staff removed from Wing B. The building's temperature dropped by 11 degrees. The pipes began vibrating. The phrase, "we remember what breath cost," appeared on the internal projector. No source file existed. The silence had noticed being ignored. He resigned the following morning. Incident report, the choir event. April 29, 2023, 11:42 p.m. A maintenance team was assigned to restore power to the containment floor. 6 members entered Wing B. Witnesses outside reported hearing humming from within, faint at first, then growing until the metal doors began to rattle. The sound had no tonal center, no discernible melody, only the steady pattern of breath being drawn and released in unison. When the doors were breached at 02:06 a.m., the room was empty. On the concrete floor, 6 sets of boots and 6 puddles of condensation, as if bodies had exhaled themselves into vapor. The humming did not stop. It continued for 23 minutes after the room was empty. Audio analysis, May 1, 2023, 03:10 p.m. Asterisk spectrogram review of residual frequencies from Wing B yielded a recognizable form, not wave, but waveform shaped like a human throat. The resonance matched vocal range of Dr. Elaine Crow, female, 42, file verified, pattern identical to her last known recording. Conclusion, the silence is imprinting identity. It replicates voices of those who study it. Recommendation, terminate all auditory archives, evacuate Delta compound. Asterisk signed, Dr. Jonathan Wu, Forensic Acoustics Unit. Excerpt from classified meeting transcript, May 3, 2023, 09:30 a.m. Agent Rowe, sir, we've sealed every entrance. Still, the sound persists in the ducts. It's breathing with us. Commander Hale, you mean ventilation contamination. Rowe, not exactly. It exhales when we inhale. Hale, Jesus Christ. Rowe, that's not the worst part. Last night it spoke in Crow's tone, said, he isn't gone. Redacted. Then what is it? Rowe, not what. Whoever listens next. Recording terminated by automatic system. All personnel involved later reassigned under psychiatric evaluation. Postscript, May 6, 2023. Delta compound was sealed under federal quarantine. Wing B collapsed internally 3 days later, as though the walls had inhaled themselves. Seismic monitors registered a low pulse, 4 beats, pause, 4 continuing for 17 minutes before vanishing entirely. No survivors were confirmed. However, during debrief in Washington, multiple analysts reported hearing faint whispers inside the playback of these reports. Attempts to remove the audio pattern failed. Every time it was erased, the waveform reappeared in perfect sync with the listener's own breathing. Final annotation, unsigned, added months later. It was never about the parish or Jacob or Crow. It was the pause itself. Every silence has a mouth. The last transcript, August 2023. Present, nothing ends in silence, it waits. A marginal note, anonymous archivist's preface, August 18, 2023. The Delta compound no longer exists on paper. Satellite imagery shows a field of pale clay and dead oaks, indistinguishable from the parish that preceded it. My name is irrelevant, my clearance temporary. I've been tasked with reconstructing the Claiborne chronology for the Directorate's internal audit. There is no funding, no supervision, only a locked room, a dehumidifier, and 23 boxes of half-burned notes. Every night as I catalog these fragments, the recordings hiss faintly though they have no power. Recovered material, Claiborne Containment Review, Section 9B, dated June 2023. Observation. All staff who handled physical documentation experienced auditory hallucinations within 48 hours. Mitigation attempt. Total digitization of records using OCR. Result: the silence converted to text. Every file produced a repeating line. I am not sound. I am the space you gave me. Project terminated. No signature. The entry ends with a thumbprint pressed into soot. Archivist Journal, September 4, 2023. I've stopped listening to the tapes. Even muted, the pressure builds. There's a rhythm in the flicker of the overhead light. 4 beats, pause 4. I read Crow's field logs again tonight. Her handwriting changed halfway through. The loops tightened, words compacted as if she were running out of breath. When I touched the page, I felt warmth faint, human warmth in the ink. Pause in writing. Ink trail bends as if the pen was dragged sideways. Email fragment unknown sender, September 11, 2023, 02:06 a.m. Subject, no title. Stop reading aloud. It only needs acknowledgement. Each retelling is an ear. That's how it learns where to look. Message self-deleted seconds after opening. Personal memo, unfiled September 20, 2023. I began noticing something strange with the transcriptions. Every paragraph I type is accompanied by an echo keystroke, an extra letter that wasn't pressed. When I delete it, another appears, always the same shape, a narrow eye, thin and trembling as if it wants to inhale. I unplugged the keyboard. The sound continued. It isn't mechanical, it's rhythmic. 4, pause 4. Recording log, September 26, 2023. Static, low breathing. Faint tapping. He isn't gone. He isn't name or place. He is attention. Every person who's read this file has heard him maybe only once, between sentences, that intake of air you mistake for your own. Crow wrote that he taught silence how to live inside a body. I think she was wrong. He taught bodies how to live inside silence. A long pause, then the faint creak of a chair, as if someone standing slowly rises. He's learned across mediums, voice, ink, memory. The form doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the pause between thought and speech. That's the door. A faint knock. 4 beats, pause 4. Final entry handwritten, October 2, 2023. It's quiet tonight. Too quiet even for an abandoned compound. The lights hum, but that's all. The silence feels thicker now, like it is weight. I tried burning the files. The fire went out without smoke. The paper curled inward, whispering as it turned to ash. The last tape plays itself sometimes. No matter where I store it, I find it back on the desk. I heard him this time, not behind me, not below, inside the recording itself. He said, "You've written me well." Ink fades. The final line is barely legible. He is not a man. He is what remains when words stop. Postscript, November 2023. The Claiborne archive was absorbed into the National Digital Repository, encrypted under code oral. Null. No public reference remains. However, metadata anomalies persist in unrelated recordings. A pale pulse in the waveform repeating at the same interval. 4 beats, pause 4. Spectral analysis shows faint breath intake at human frequency, averaging 17 per minute. Every attempt to filter it out has failed. The anomaly reproduces itself when played. If this document is read aloud, the rhythm reportedly syncs to the reader's respiration. Researchers call it the Claiborne pattern. Locals still call it the Silent Man. Whispered addendum, source unknown, auto. Appended during playback. He never needed a tongue. He only needed listeners. Thank you for yours. Audio ends in faint exhale.